Hello everyone and welcome to Blogger and everything and welcome back to the channel. And thank goodness Barcelona was able to get the 3 points here away at Slavia Prague. It was not an easy match as you would imagine, but they managed to get the 3 points, and that makes things very, very interesting in the Champions League. Though I do wonder if Barcelona were aware of their condition. Like as they were winning this match, did they know that they needed to score more goals? Because I'll be honest, they did seem a bit lax towards the end of that match. Maybe they were thinking of trying to keep something in the gas for the La Liga match that's coming next week, now that they just have the 1 point margin against Real Madrid. But apologies for that camera shake. Very much natural. I think that Barca here are in probably a very sticky situation, because let's just go straight in, right? Let's start by looking at the Champions League table here, and let me just blow this up just a little bit, make this a bit bigger. Okay, that's good. So you're looking at this. Of course, this is, like I said, Barca won by 4-2. By the way, crazy stat that I realized just as I was watching this match is that this is the first game in which Lewandowski or Olmo have scored in the Champions League this season, and Rafinha is yet to score in the Champions League this season. And it's like, no wonder we're struggling. It's going to explain why we're struggling in the way that I'm about to just point out here, in as far as goal scoring is concerned. Because look at this, right? Barca right now level on points with Chelsea, and the goal difference is only 5. I mean, they've scored 18 goals, but they've conceded 13, which is crazy, because I can't really see anybody else here. You have to go all the way down to 12th to find someone who's conceded as many goals, and that's Atleti, and Atleti had a poor start to the season. So, it's not good from Barcelona. It's not good enough, to be quite honest. You want it to be looking a bit more like it does here with Bayern, where you've scored 20, you've conceded 7. But anyway, I digress. So this is currently Barcelona's predicament. They're 1 goal, worse off than Chelsea, to put it that way, and 10. Look at that, 5 goals worse off than Newcastle United when it comes to goal difference. And this is important because right now Barcelona are tied on points with Chelsea, with Newcastle, with PSG. All right, and then of course they've got Spurs up. I'm sorry, what? They've got Spurs in. What's Spurs doing in 5th? This group, this Champions League group phase thing is like, this is a fugazi. What the heck is Spurs doing in 5th? Spurs. Wow, okay. And yeah, they've got Spurs ahead of them. Chelsea, Newcastle, PSG, and Spurs. This is crazy. I think all the Premier League teams except City are in the top 8, which is, this is what we would have expected to happen last season, but it didn't. We only had 2, right, Premier League teams in the top 8. Anyway, and it's crazy for Barcelona because next week, all the games are going to be played at the same time, okay? So obviously, condition number 1 here is that Barcelona needs to win, all right? They need to win. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to dwell too much on the match today, although I should, just say, a shout out to Fermin Lopez, because kid keeps, coming up big for Barcelona in the Champions League. That was his 5th goal of the season. He's pushing the numbers. And of course, Lewandowski and Dani Olmo, that golazo, but it took you long enough, guys, to join the party. If you had joined earlier, Barca probably wouldn't be in this situation, because what I was about to say is that last season compared to now, Barcelona was winning by higher margins, right? I mean, 4-1 against Bayern, right? You had 5-2 against Red Star, right? You had quite a few, matches where Barcelona outscored the opposition by more than 2 or 3 goals. This season, though, a lot of the matches have been tight, right? 2-1 against Eintracht, 2-1 against Newcastle. Who else was there? Olympiacos is the one outlier in this, where Barcelona were able to score 5 or 6, which you just wonder, if they hadn't scored those, 5 or 6, what would their goal difference situation look like? Anywho, That's what's keeping them currently as well ahead of Sporting, because they've just scored more goals. So keep in mind as well, right? Sporting, like, okay, so anyway, stay on point, stay on point, stay on point. Okay, so next week, all the matches are going to be played at the same time, and it's going to be some craziness here because look at some of these fixtures, right? So, like I mentioned, Barcelona are looking at Spurs because, Spurs is just 1 point ahead of them. So, you're looking at Spurs, PSG, Newcastle, and Chelsea. And you're hoping that one of these guys doesn't win because that's what Barcelona needs. Drop points from one of these guys, or just, Barcelona scoring like 6 or 7 unanswered goals against Copenhagen, which I think we both know that's not going to happen because this defense right now is too leaky. So we're likely to see a kind of result like tonight's, or like, the Frankfurt result if Barcelona do actually win. Because, I mean, keep in mind, Copenhagen just came from drawing with Napoli, right? Salvage the draw, and they've still got something to fight for. If they get a point or something like that, they could arguably have enough points to, get into the playoff situation. But yeah, look at what it's like, okay? So you've got Chelsea. Where is Chelsea? Chelsea are going to be playing against Napoli, which you're thinking, oh, okay, that's a good one. Then the next thing is PSG are going to be playing against Newcastle. So what this does already, for me, it tells me that at least one of these guys isn't picking up maximum points. So if Barca can pick up maximum points, then, PSG beats Newcastle, Barcelona is good. Or if Barca, wins and, Newcastle beats PSG, Barca are good. Or better off if Newcastle and PSG draw, which is like dream scenario, and Barcelona win, then, comfortably, they're going to get into the top 8. And right now, honestly, with the way this team is looking shaky on counters against just about anyone, you don't want to be going into a round of 32 playoff where you don't know what kind of speed demons you might meet there, and lose out on that round of 16 money. Don't forget, there's a bunch of money here, okay? Barca needs that money, the 1-for-1 round, all that stuff. So that's what's going on with PSG, with Newcastle, with Chelsea, and then Spurs. We can have a look as well. Spurs are going away to Frankfurt, and this is another one where I'm thinking, like, Champions League gods. I know Frankfurt have got nothing to play for, but it's Spurs. For goodness sake, please, Spurs, can you just be yourselves and do a Spurs? Because guess what? They beat Dortmund this past match day. And I just have to say, Dortmund are probably the one other team in the entire of Europe that are more Spursy than Spurs. So, that's how they found themselves in this situation. Again, like, Spurs is in the top 8. How did that happen? And it was between them and Dortmund, because Dortmund would have been on 14 as well, yeah? Look, anyway, this is Barcelona's current situation. So, I mean, look, if you want, we can look just briefly at some of the tactics here. But long story short, there was a parked bus, okay, from Slavia. Of course, here generally looks like they were closer to the middle of the pitch, but this formation was definitely packing, the back and the middle. And it honestly just took some brilliance, I would say, start with from Fermin Lopez to open up the game. And, well, after that, it was a bit touch and go for a bit, but, Barcelona's quality ultimately shone through. Of course, there is the one worry that we have, which was the substitution of Peri, who came off with what looked like a hamstring strain. Now, it was a very cold night, so it's possible, it could be one of those things where, because of the cold, he got, his leg froze up and, he kind of pulled the muscle. Hopefully, it's one of those situations. And I don't necessarily think that you need Pedri against Copenhagen. But hey, this is the Champions League. You don't know what could happen. So it's best just to have everybody fit. Aside from that, like I said, for me on the night, I'd give the man of the match to Fermin. We need to see some improvements at the back. I'm thankful that Pau Cubarsí was not in the team this week because you know what? A lot of people have been coming down hard on Pau Cubarsí, and they've been acting like Barcelona's failure to keep clean sheets and Barcelona's, porosity at the back is because of Kubarsi. And like, listen to me, guys, okay? I don't always go out on a rant to like defend a player or whatnot. And I can't believe I have to do this as well for a guy who is, 18 years in his third season of senior team football, and he's finally having an offish season, you can put it that way. And everybody wants to calm down on him like all defensive issues are down to just, him not being stable at the back. So, that's not the case. We saw that today now, okay? We had Eric Garcia, we had Gerard Martin, there was no Kubarsi in sight, but we still look just as vulnerable as we do when he's there. And it's because the issue isn't with him. The issue is how our pressing structure just gets sometimes easily played through. And I guess we'll talk about that on another video. But this has gone on for long enough. I was just trying to, have a quick chat. But let me know, though, what you thought of the performance of the match in the comment section. But I thank you all for tuning in. Do have a great day, and Forza Barca.